But instead of graphing it, they want you to actually put it in your calculator and figure out the mean and the median. So how many do we have? 4, 1, 2, 8. 32. Chapter 3 is not supposed to have large examples like this. I'm going to go ahead and put them in my L1. Once you've got everything in, if you highlight the last one, it should say L1 in parentheses 32, because there were 32 numbers altogether. I'm just going to scroll up mine real quick just to make sure all of them look like they're right. Just making sure I didn't write a really small number or something on accident. So now if I go to Stat, Calc, and 1-bar stats, I can pull up all of my values right here. Oh, goodness, they're kind of long. So for this example, write out the mean and the median. So, and this is a sample, so the mean actually will be an X bar, because it's a sample, not the population. So my X bar at the top is 168.20, approximately. And my median, if I scroll down to MED, calculator, bottom, I get 148,700. 700. So again, I like to graph these out on a number line just so I can see kind of how they relate to each other. So let's see, if I start with 140,000, 150,000, 160,000, 170,000. My mean is 168, which is up here. 1,000, and my median is 149, so down here. Median about 149,000. If I just round to the nearest thousand, so that's where they fall on the number line. So they're really not that close to each other. So this one is actually going to be skewed. Which direction do you think it would be skewed? To the right. So the mean goes towards my extreme values, my outliers. And so that's where my tail is going to be. So my tail is over here on the right, so it's going to be skewed to the right. So here they say the mean asking price is 168,320, there, and the median is 148,700. We already wrote, so it should be skewed to the right. In this case, we do have the raw data value, so if we wanted to double check it in your calculator, you could do a histogram if you wanted to. So to do a histogram, we would go to second, y equals. So if you look above y equals right here, it says stat plot. So when we're graphing things in statistics, we'll go to stat plot. So second y equals to pull it up. I've got my first one on, the rest of them are off, which is what I want to have happen. If I click on it. My histogram is already highlighted, but if yours is not, just go over, not that far, and highlight histogram. And once you have that done, you can do zoom 9 for zoom stat. If you get an error, that probably means you've got another graph turned on, or you might have something here in your regular line equal, like some polynomial from a different algebra class or something. Does anybody have an error when they try to graph it? Okay, so there's my histogram. If you just want to double check, like I said, if it asks you on the homework to do a histogram, you probably don't want to do it this way because the class width and the lower class limits won't always line up and it won't be exactly the same shape. But here we're just trying to get a rough idea of what it looks like, and here it's very obvious that we've got our peak that's really tall over there on the left-hand side, and then it trails off and you've got your tail on the right, so this one is going to be skewed to the right. So double check, and our answer here is confirmed with the histogram.
So if your calculator won't pronounce it, what do you want?
Did anything? So it looks like you've got the center panel, put that here and then the histogram. So here they have their histogram, which looks different because they did just a different class width, but that's fine. Still the same basic shape. It's obviously skewed to the right. Okay, so the last one we have in this section is the mode. Mean, median, and mode. They get grouped together because usually when you have a nice bell curve, your mean, median, and your mode are right there in the middle together. And so it's thrown in with the measure of central tendency because it's usually with the other two, and they all start with M, so it's nice, but it's not always right there in the middle. I mean, you might have your mode that's off to one side or another. If you have something that's really heavily skewed or something like that. So it's not always in the middle like the mean and the median are, but they still lump them together. So the mode is going to be the most frequent observation that you see in your data set, so it's the one that happens most often. And then when you're looking for your mode, you can have no mode, so if everything has the same frequency, like everything shows up just one time, you'd say no mode. If you've got one value that happens more than the other ones, you'll say that there's just one mode. If you have two values that are kind of tied, then you'll have two modes. So it's going to be different than when we saw a histogram and we talked about where the peak was with the mode, because with this one, it's just going to be, if they're lopsided and you've got one that's clearly higher than the other one, that's going to be the mode. You're not going to have two. For this one, for two modes, it has to be tied for the number of times you see it. So that's a little bit different than we saw in chapter 2. Okay, so in this case, we're going to find the mode of a data set, but now we've got presidents and their state of birth, and we're going to find the mode. Right. So this is actually, look, the next slide, this